This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys. Are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back tonight. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. You jumped up and...
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharpe. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncork for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruni.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields! Hello, Columbus! 51 yards!
Bruni, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Gotta get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Gotta continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies because Herb Street ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruni and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharpe. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern Time, the only time zone better than Mountain Time. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by Campus10.com. Austin Nace and Felix Sharpe here with you tonight on a buffed-up version of tonight's show. Who are some players we're adding to our rankings? We check the panic meter at Ohio State and Texas, and some very prominent names in college football might get hit with the overrated label tonight. But, Austin, I want to start with this. I want to start with Deion Sanders. Not necessarily the game, but the economy of Coach Prime. Now, the reason why I want to start with this, and I know that he's not here tonight, but on the Better Sports Show, I talked about the economic impact that Deion Sanders would have coming to Colorado. I thought that this was just intuitive, but I was mocked, ridiculed, teased, and made fun of because the Boulder, Colorado economy is already, the median home price is just under $1 million. That's true. However, let's look at the numbers. Sportico posted an article earlier this week. Deion Sanders signed a 5-year deal for $29.5 million. Rick George, Colorado's athletic director at the time, said, "We don't have the money, but we believe that we will get it." In 2022, last year, before Coach Prime was there, the Buff Club, which is the fundraising arm for Colorado, raised $22 million in all of 2022. To this point, in 2023, the season hadn't even really started yet. They've raised over $28 million, close to $29 million. He has almost paid his own contract, the entire 5-year deal, with 1 year in Colorado. And I think that this article was posted before the win. We know that things are going to get crazy thereafter. Merchandise sales up 500% in the first month since Deion Sanders took over as head coach. Season tickets for the entire year in 2022, $222 for the entire year. You can get season tickets. One ticket to the home opener against Nebraska, the cheapest ticket, $476. You can't get a hotel in Boulder. You can't get a restaurant reservation. I guarantee you on Friday and Saturday night, Uber prices will be surging in Colorado. Vendors will be on the street selling knockoff merchandise. The closest Airbnbs to Folsom Field are renting The only ones that are available, mind you, the only ones that are available are renting between $700 and $1,000 a night for this weekend. I thought that this was counterintuitive, but it is evident that there is a real impact that Deion Sanders is having, not just on the field, but off the field. He is worth it also. I just wanted to throw that out there. I wish Chris was here to defend himself because I was laughed at. But it is obvious that the impact here is more than just between the lines of scrimmage. If I'm a restaurant owner in Boulder, Colorado, if I'm a property owner in Boulder, Colorado, I'm very, very happy about what's going on with the football program. Austin, comment on either this or the game on Saturday or anything Colorado related, your observations.
At a press conference this week, it made some news because Deion, I found out later it was Ed Werder had asked a question or attempted to ask a question at his press conference and kind of got a very mixed reaction when Deion said, I read what you wrote. Do you believe?
Do you believe now?
And Ed
you don't
Werder,
believe. Next question.
I couldn't really hear what he was saying, but I'm assuming he either said no or like tried to spell out some other answer that was not yes, which is what Deion wanted to hear. Call me Ed Werder, because I do not believe in this Colorado team. I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. You can call me a hater. You can call me whatever else you want to call me. I think we're putting the cart ahead of the horse here. Team, I think it is more likely that TCU is really bad than Colorado is good. The way that they were beating TCU this weekend. Now, granted, I think they can cause some issues with their team speed on offense, and I think we underestimated that a little bit with Horn and Weaver, and I don't think anybody expected Travis Hunter to play 120 snaps and Dylan Edwards and all these guys. They gave TCU problems. I think a better setup defense, a more talented defense, a more athletic defense, I still think is going to give them a lot of issues. And don't forget, I think TCU coulda, shoulda, woulda. Shout out to Colorado for winning this game when none of us thought they could even cover. If Chandler Morris doesn't throw that first interception in the red zone, I'm very interested to see how this game goes because I think Colorado, I think they're really going to struggle if they get behind in games. I think they have to be attack, and if they get behind, I think they're in trouble. So I'm interested to see what happens with Nebraska this week. It would not shock me at all if Nebraska beats them by a touchdown, 10 points. Because I think they have tape now. They know what's coming. They can't be any less athletic than that TCU defense was. I'm really interested to see. If they win this week convincingly, I'm not talking like 3 points, I will probably be buying into Colorado at that point. But as of today, with the little information that we have, I am not a believer.
I want to say this because I agree with a team that is this newly formed. I would expect when they faced adversity to fall apart. But in the second half of that game against TCU, they had several opportunities to fall apart and did not, defensively and offensively. I think that's just an indication of a well-coached team. And as much as Deion Sanders is about the flash and all of that stuff, we thought the coordinator's hires were substantive. Sean Lewis, Charles Kelly from Alabama. We thought that they were great coordinator hires. And in the first half, Colorado was breaking tackles in the secondary. The secondary could not tackle them. And then defensively, and they were blocking downfield. The wide receivers were blocking downfield, which is what was springing Dylan Edwards for these touchdowns. I mean, they were winning in blocking and tackling. Those are the fundamental aspects of the game, which you have to give and lend to coaching. I think the team total over-under started at 5.5 or something like that, and then came down to 3.5. If you were betting in 3.5 and the under on 3.5, you had TCU as a loss. You had Nebraska as a loss. Nebraska scored 10 points? I don't see how their offense, I think that Colorado's going to be able to score 28 points at home. You got the big noon kickoff is there. Not just everybody's going to be there. I guarantee you they're going to be celebrities at this game, including yours truly. They're going to win this game. Nebraska started off as a touchdown favorite. Now Colorado is favored by a field goal. I think that they're going to win this game. I don't think that Nebraska is going to be able to score with them. And we're starting off 2-0, a Colorado 2-0 team. They got to get 2 more games on that schedule to hit the over on that 3.5. Still got Arizona State on the schedule. Still got Stanford on the schedule. The teams that now seem unbeatable, still going to be a tough time with Utah, still going to be a tough time with USC, still going to be a tough time with Oregon. But after Nebraska, they get Colorado State. If they beat Nebraska, they're going to be undefeated because they're going to beat Colorado State. I don't know. I mean, I was right there with you, Austin, taking the under, but they have momentum on their side, and they might be able to ride it for 2 weeks here.
That's a fair point. The momentum might work out early in the season until something happens, and then we'll see. Because Dion did say that this weekend too. He said something about with a guy like Dion, you don't know what he's saying, like whether it's bullshit or whether it's true. I honestly don't know if the story is true. But that's the beauty of a guy like Dion, where he said that the players were coming up to him after the game and telling him that they finally believed. Like, okay, I don't know if that, but the players will start believing if you're 2-0, 3-0, and he's been sitting there all offseason telling you if you do it my way, we're going to be good. I think the biggest surprise for me actually was the offensive line, and that's really what I'm interested in. If that offensive line, they can't run block at all, but they gave Shedeur a pretty good amount of time for the majority of it. He got sacked a couple times, but they kept him pretty clean. And he's, contrary to some of the things I see out there, he is not a good athlete at all, Shedeur. He labors when he runs. You can, compare to other guys out there, you can see it. So I think if they can keep him clean, I think that, they'll have
his dad was a cornerback, but he is very much a pocket passer.
Yeah. 100%.
I think there's a question about Shedeur after this game. 500 yards passing, 4 pass catchers with over 100 yards receiving, and a running back, of course, Dylan Edwards with over 100 yards receiving. Is he an NFL quarterback? And I don't want you to take all the heat today. I'm going to do this. I don't think there was anything that I saw on Saturday that led me to think Shedeur Sanders, he is a NFL franchise guy. A lot of that system offensively was dink and dunk for the most part. And then when he had the opportunity to attack the field deep with Travis Hunter, he did so. Some of those passes bounced off of receivers' hands. But when I look at NFL quarterbacks, I like mobility in the pocket. I like some of those lasers that travel, 15 to 17 yards down the field and don't go anywhere between, 7 and 12 yards off the ground. I didn't see any of those. He wasn't asked to make those. I don't see him as a player who has a laser arm, great mobility. He is a good college quarterback, which is fine. I am not putting him in the first round. As much as I think I'm on board with what this team is doing, I think that there's a chance they could go bowling. The NFL players on this team right now are Travis Hunter at either cornerback or wide receiver. I am not buying Shedeur as really anything more than a CFF value for our Campus Canton leagues, for our Devy leagues. If I'm in a Devy league and I have, 5 taxi squad spots, this is not a player that I'm rostering.
What would you sell him for today?
Agree.
What would you, if you had him today, what would you sell him for in a Devy league?
In a Devy league, if I could get, anytime I can take what about Kyler Murray? Could you get Kyler Murray for Shedeur Sanders? I would take that in a heartbeat.
Might have to add a little bit,
that in a heartbeat.
I would do that.
In a Devy league. In a Campus to Canton league, I might be trading him for some high-end supplemental draft picks because I think that I can get that production, that CFF production elsewhere. I don't think he's going to throw for 500 yards every single week. What would you trade for him?
Yeah, I'd probably try to trade him up into an NFL quarterback in some fashion. I think there's got to be some believer out there in your league, even if it's only quote unquote, Kirk Cousins. If I can get a Kirk Cousins kind of guy for him in a Devy league, I think I'm all aboard that train. Because realistically, isn't that kind of what you're hoping that Shedeur turns into? Like you just said, he doesn't have a laser arm. He's not going to really be a rushing threat at all in the NFL. Probably have to protect him a little bit. That might be the best case scenario. I saw people throwing around like, Tom Brady made a career out of dinking and dunking this weekend. It's like, that was 25, 30 years ago, and he was given the latitude to do that. There's a reason you don't really see guys come in and do that right now in the NFL immediately. It's just really, really difficult. But I mean, I don't want to underestimate the fact that he came in there in an offseason, apparently probably mastered that playbook and was able to, put that game plan into action. Like, I mean, I'm not going to make fun of him for it, but yeah, the second half there were a couple of throws that I really, really liked downfield, but they were also throws that I think I would expect a legitimate NFL draft prospect to make, kind of like that JJ McCarthy throw that's floating around this weekend. That touchdown pass that he threw.
They played against a lot of off coverage. I would be interested to see if they play a team that's going to go up to the line of scrimmage and not give them so many gimmies and can get a pass rush. I think that is the team that will be a good matchup for Colorado. Play press man.
Yeah.
Dylan Edwards. We haven't talked about him yet. If you don't have him rostered already, one, are you spending a waiver pick to go get him? And if you have him rostered already, is this somebody that you're starting moving forward?
Don't think you can start him. He only played, I believe, 35% of the snaps this week, as I detailed on one of our shows this week over at C2C. Man, I'm not starting him, and I think, this game was like, he might not score more fantasy points than this ever in his career, right? This might be the best Dylan Edwards game we ever get for fantasy. 5 catches, 135 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ridiculous. I think until he shows that he can rush a little bit, I still think the value is a little capped, until the team shows they can run a little bit, but him specifically, I think, at best you're getting like a college scat back. Most NFL scat backs were the guy in college, and then they turned into scat backs in the NFL because they just were 195 pounds or whatever. He's 170. I think that's going to be a difficult thing for anything beyond the next 2 years.
He's not much smaller than Marquez Cooper. And Marquez Cooper is what, RB1, RB2 in CFF for Kent State for Sean Lewis. A similar size player. Yes, it was the MAC, but we saw production in week 1, which was, they're running up and down the field. So Sean Lewis has had similar productivity with a similar style player. I don't think it's unreasonable. I wouldn't start him myself. But I don't think this is a player, I have him on my roster. Let me now trade him at his peak, unless I can get, some sort of ridiculous offer. I think that he's a player that you hold and you wait to see if they're going – first of all, he has to get more carries. Can he be as consistent in the passing game? And then I'll wait a couple of weeks and then I might start him. But for the running back position, I want to see them get carries. And he had what? 40 yards on the ground or something like that. You're not going to get 100 yards receiving every single week from your running back,
especially with Alton McCaskill, who didn't play in this game.
That's another good point.
Their leading rusher. Would you? Yeah. Here's a bigger question for you. Would you start Travis Hunter this week?
So I think I would at wide receiver because they're going to want to keep this momentum going. And I don't think that they start saving him until they play Colorado State. I think Colorado State is really the only cupcake on their schedule. You look at it, maybe, it is the only, what I would say, cupcake on their schedule. I don't think that this is the week that they start resting him. He's going to get targeted. And if that offensive line can't run block, Shedeur Sanders is going to throw the ball another 50 times a game. Travis Hunter is a red zone threat. He had a touchdown catch called back. He's going to be a red zone threat for them. They're going to throw fades. They can throw fades to him in the red zone. They already have. And he might get 15 targets. So, yeah, I would start him. Would you start him?
I don't.
Would you start Travis Hunter or Keon Coleman?
Hunter, I think. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like what the line would be. I'm just but I think you raised a good point there. Maybe they'll save him in week 3 and kind of go hard week 1 and 2 here with him in terms of snaps. He can't. We are going to keep saying he can't, and maybe Deion's going to keep proving us wrong. He can't play that many snaps every game, right? Like maybe he is just built different. I don't think you can.
I don't know why he can't. Most of these guys in high school played the entire game.
Different like intensity and skill level.
Though. I understand.
I don't know.
I think the reason more players don't play both sides of the ball is because there are so many like meetings for position groups. Like if you don't know this, in college and the NFL, there's a linebackers meeting, there's a secondary meeting, there's a defensive line meeting. On the offensive side of the ball, the quarterbacks have separate meetings, the running backs, the offensive line, the wide receivers, and then there's an entire their team. Like he doesn't have the ability. Most players aren't good enough where we say, okay, you can miss this week's defensive meetings and just go be with the offense and still play both sides of the ball on Saturday. I think that's the reason why we don't see more players play both sides of the ball as a preparation issue. It's kind of works for a guy like Travis Hunter. We're going to play cover 2, cover 3 man, quarters. I mean, as a cornerback, you might need to know who's blitzing on a down-to-down basis so that you know if the ball is coming out hot. But somebody can we're sending 5 this time. We're sending 6. You got man, you got quarters, cover 2. It actually I think it would be harder if this was a middle linebacker or, somebody who had more responsibility for what the defense is doing overall. But for a cornerback, most of the time, you're going to have one of 5 or 6 assignments in coverage. And Travis Hunter can play man-to-man defense all day. You just got to tell him. You got that dude. You got Malachi Coleman, who didn't play last week, by the way.
I think he was injured for a big part of camp, and he was not an early enrollee. So I think that was expected for anybody worrying about that.
We appreciate you. If you're watching live, go ahead and drop that like button. It really helps us. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers here on YouTube as soon as we can. I think we can do that during the football season. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment in the chat box, whether you're watching live or later on. Tell us if you like the show. If you are a Campus to Canton subscriber, if you are an NAL subscriber, we have a podcast feed specifically for you, including Matt Waldman, Michael Nelson. Austin has his own show there on the collective podcast feed. Matt Waldman this week talking about the aforementioned Keon Coleman and these big-bodied possession wide receivers. Does Keon Coleman have a future in the NFL as an alpha? You can hear Matt Waldman's answer on the collective. You just recorded with Nelly. What are you guys talking about this week?
Talking about early season waiver strategy and how to know when to be a seller or a buyer at what point in the season you're making some of those decisions and to what extent you're making them this early after 1 week.
There we go. NIL subscribers, all 22 subscribers, you get projected spreads, depth charts, offense and defense for all 133 FBS teams that are updated regularly. It's not like we sit stagnant. Those are updated regularly. What else do you get with the all 22? Oh, returning production. There's so much. I need to create a thread on everything that it is that we offer. Thank you, Trevor. In the comments, he says he loves the show, really gets to watch us live. We appreciate that, Trevor. To the tailgate Saturday mornings. I am so mad that I'm not going to be on this week. I might have to call into the show. By the way, the audience has been outstanding on Saturday morning. I think that this is the best year that we've had on Saturday morning. It's probably because Better Sports is producing the show. We have commercial breaks. We have music. We have real production. And Austin over there is driving the ship. That's what makes the show the show. So join us on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time to 12 for the tailgate on Saturday morning. We want you to spend your Saturday mornings with us. And I made one last housekeeping item. I think 2 weeks ago, I said for any new rate and review on Apple Podcast, one of those people would get a free month to everything we have to offer at campuscan.com. And then guess how many rates and reviews that we got? None. Now, we did get some rates because I saw that number go up, but they did not include the review. I'm going to do this one more week. One more week. If you are newly listening to us and you want to check out everything we have to offer at campuscan.com, leave a 5-star rate. That's important, but also a written review. And if there's one person, that one person will get the everything we have for a month. If it's more than one person, we'll pick, one of the people that leave a rate and review.
And how about this, Felix? You were just saying, you need to make a thread on everything we offer. Not only will we give you everything we offer, we'll sit down with you if you would like us to and show you everything and how it can be used so that you can maximize that month of usage.
There we go. Including if you're playing Prize Picks, we have the best player prop research out there. Prize Picks promo code C2C. Austin, let's get into some more games here. Chris Moxley said in our chat this weekend, he said it's a good day for Felix. He was mentioning both Ohio State and the Texas quarterback situations there. Let's start with Ohio State, Austin. Ohio State 23-3 against Indiana. It was just 10-3 at the half. Marvin Harrison Jr. went down with an injury here early. They ran 3 different running backs out there, including Tranium. I thought he was just an emergency player last year, like he was still playing linebacker, and they moved him back to running back to his Arizona State days. Kyle McCord, 20 for 33, 239 yards, 1 interception, no touchdowns. Oh, by the way, yes, it was a close battle. Did they let Devin Brown play? Yes. 1 series, 2 handoffs, a quarterback draw where the offensive line gets blown up in the backfield. That was it for him. That was unfair. That's a story for another day. But Austin, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being hair on fire and 1 being, it's cool, how panicked should Ohio State fans be about their team offensively?
Yeah, I don't want to dial too much into Kyle McCord specifically in terms of just because I put him on that NIL show this week. I don't want to be giving away state secrets here. If you're an NIL member, go listen to that. I do think it's a little concerning. It didn't seem like any of it was clicking, except for Cade Stover down the seam, which is not, that's like your 5th option at best. You that's not what you want to be relying on. I think they could, I don't want to overreact to 1 week, but I do think they could be in some trouble if they can't figure out the quarterback position. Because
interesting.
I don't know. I mean, 10-3 at half against Indiana? Struggled to extend drives, struggled to push the ball downfield.
Oh,
I don't know. What do you think?
It's funny because I know a player that can push the ball downfield and be more explosive. It's crazy. I'm not in practice, and I know that there's a player that can do that. Devin Brown, and apparently he was playing well in practice, well enough for that quarterback battle to be drawn out as long as it did. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably a 1 because I think that this team is going to get figured out. And quite frankly, the competition in the Big Ten isn't so that you can't wait a couple of weeks to get this figured out while still probably winning some ugly games. Let's not forget they have Trip Trainum, they have Mayan Williams there. If they want to play ugly football, they can do that and probably still win most of the time. We're used to seeing this offense being a high-flying offense for multiple receivers having over 100-yard receiving. We may not get that here early on. I don't know. Yes, I think that Devin Brown would offer a higher ceiling for this offense. I think Kyle McCord has that potential too once he gets in rhythm. Now, if we remember that first year that C.J. Stroud started, was it Minnesota on the road? It was Minnesota on the road. He played really bad in the first quarter, and everybody was like, oh, Kyle McCord is about to come in. And then he played really good in the second half and then really good thereafter. This might be the same thing, except for Kyle McCord's quote-unquote first half of playing poorly might extend, to next week and the week thereafter. They get Youngstown State. They got to get it corrected before when they play Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a very balanced team, and they're going to be able to score. But we've seen this offense not hit on all cylinders right out of the gate. I think that they can get it corrected regardless of who the quarterback is. If it's McCord, if it's Devin Brown, I think that there's a chance that they right the ship. Do you agree?
I think it's more likely than not that they do, or just kind of pivot to something else. Which is that something else? Chip Trayanum? He looked good this weekend, did he not? I mean,
he looked good at Arizona State, and then he decided he wanted to play linebacker again. So
I don't think that was his choice, for what it's worth. I think he really wanted to go back. He's from Ohio. I think he wanted to go back home, and they said, we don't have room at running back for you. Do you want to play linebacker? And now I think he's back at running back. He could be a Ramondre Stevenson. Slim him down a little bit. I think he's a good player. I think he's a really good player. I had him rostered in some places. I had him rostered as a running back in a lot of places. I think I cut him everywhere this past offseason because I didn't want to wait in hunger to see if he made the transition back. But they look like they really want to use him. He got close to as many carries as the other guys did. And I thought if you want to talk about him and Mayan both kind of competing for like more of a thumper role, I don't think Chip looked worse than Mayan. Maybe I don't want to say he looked, better. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I thought he looked at least as good as Mayan Williams did this week.
Hurt my feelings. Who gets drafted first, Mayan Williams or TreVeyon Henderson?
Man, I am not going to lie. I'm a little worried about TreVeyon after this week.
Oh, a little worried. Little worried. Would you look at that? Matthew and I did a video on TreVeyon Henderson, a cut up that got taken down, I think, for copyright. But we had talked about this for like 20 minutes or maybe 25 minutes, a video that nobody got to see because it was taken down for some reason. Couldn't figure out why. But Matt, speaking of the collective podcast feed, last week's episode, Matt Waldman talked everything about TreVeyon Henderson. I don't want to give the goods on that, but it is an excellent episode. And as far as how you should be approaching TreVeyon Henderson, he gives the details on that too. So if you're an NIL subscriber and you haven't listened to that episode, go ahead and find it. Let's go to Texas here. Texas 37-10 over Rice, 16-3 at the half. Quint Ewers, 19 for 30, 3 touchdowns, just 8.7 yards per attempt. He did not complete a pass that traveled over 20 yards through the air. He attempted 6 passes over 20 yards and completed none of them. And this is very much consistent with all you Texas fans jumping in my face on that video that Matthew and I did, talking about how great Quint Ewers was. And he was not accurate deep. He was not accurate deep, which is for Quint Ewers to be as hyped as he was, you would think that he would be able to hit open receivers, especially when one of those guys is a speed threat like Xavier Worthy. Austin, your thoughts on I didn't frame the question right. Scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being hair on fire and 1 being it's cool. How panicked should the 40-acre faithful be about their Texas Longhorns?
See, I thought you were going to say I didn't frame the question in a way to get the answer that I wanted out of you. Mr. Lawyer over here. So I also talked about Quinn Ewers this week, but I'll go a little more in depth on him than I was willing to do on McCord. So Ewers, when they were just giving him 3-step drops, was actually really, really good. Was really, really good in this game. Complete command of the offense, could find, looked accurate. Ball placement was great, on time. I agree. I think he's not been good throwing the ball deep. And this is why I'm skeptical of anything the PFF puts out from a grading perspective. If you go and look at the PFF grades on Quinn Ewers throwing deep, they are excellent. They're excellent. They grade Quinn Ewers as an excellent deep ball passer. And he was not excellent in this game throwing the ball deep. He missed 2 that I thought he should have had. Another one that looked like wide receiver and him were on the same page. Whose fault is that? I don't really know. We've seen enough of those with them that maybe I'm starting to wonder if that's Quinn's fault not reading things correctly or not on those. I don't know for sure. But I think Sark is sharp enough to realize eventually, like, just let this get the ball out of the guy's hand quick, and we can just chop people apart. They have the athletes to do it. So I am interested to see if that's the turn that offense makes in the next couple of weeks. I think Sark will make that shift. They kind of did in the second half.
I expected some growth from Quinn Ewers because, first of all, y'all been telling me how great he is for the last 3 years. I didn't see growth here in, is it year 2 as a starter? Year 2 as a starter. Let me be clear, okay? The next great Quinn Ewers throw that I see will be, in fact, the first. At this point, he's a game manager. He is a game manager. Now, can you be a game manager and beat Alabama? I don't have a good sense for what Alabama looks like against a team that can also score 28 and hold them down defensively and stop the run. Now, remember last year, Texas was great against Alabama defensively, 20 to 19. It took a fourth quarter drive to win that game. Alabama definitely doesn't have the quarterback who can just lead you down the field with 90 seconds left and win the game for you. But can Alabama out-physical Texas? Can Alabama get Quinn Ewers to turn the ball over, sack, fumble, interception, et cetera, et cetera? Yeah, I think so. How do you size up this game on Saturday, which is, one of the bigger games this entire season?
Texas' offensive line was really poor this past week against Rice, of all teams, who, to my knowledge, feel free to correct me, anybody out there, it is not known for their pass rush, does not have a lot of NFL level defensive linemen on that team. So I'm really interested to see what Alabama can do with them, especially because I thought Texas was supposed to have a good offensive line this year. Like, I thought they had a lot. They were young last year. They were supposed to get better. So I think this is going to be a low scoring game. I think Alabama is going to struggle to score with Milroe. I think Texas is going to struggle to score a little bit and to move the ball consistently. I definitely wouldn't. I don't know what the spread is on this game. I haven't looked.
I mean, I know it was 7. It was Alabama by 7 in the offseason. I don't know where that line has moved today.
Probably not playing that line.
Soon. Yeah.
But depending on what the game total is, I might be willing to play the under because I think this could just be a slugfest.
I agree with you. I think the under might be the play. This has the feeling of like a 21-17, kind of like last year's game, a 21-17 type game, especially if now Quinn Ewers' best game of his season last year was that quarter and a half or whatever that he played against Alabama. Now in that game, Xavier Worthy actually did drop a deep touchdown pass that they end up having like to settle a field goal or something like that. That might have been the only time he was accurate deep on these deep routes. That's if that is really the key, because we know that this Alabama secondary can get beat. We saw it against Tennessee last year. We know that Texas has the horses to get guys behind the defense. It's just if Quinn Ewers can hit 2 of these long passes and 1 for a touchdown, that might be the difference in the game. So we'll see. All right, I think I want to move here to whether or not we're going to give these players an overrated tag. Since we already talked about Quinn Ewers and Kyle McCord, I want to start there, but I want to move on to some of your Clemson wide receivers, actually all 3 of them. Let's start with McCord and Ewers here. Quinn Ewers, is he overrated, Austin?
Probably. I dropped him a handful of spots this week in my rankings.
You're muted. Or no, I'm sorry. No, you're not. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Did it delay a little bit? Sorry. Yeah, I think he's a little overrated. I dropped him a handful of spots this week.
Can I tell you what's happening here behind the scenes? So I am using a different set of headphones. I'm using my son's headphones, and every time I press the wrong button, like the assistant is coming on and it's talking to me, and I cannot hear you. So I'm thinking that you muted yourself. I can hear you. So did you say he is overrated or is not?
Yes, is overrated. Yes.
Oh, no, he is overrated. Oh, my goodness. Who's only been saying that since they were freshmen, since before they were freshmen? Yeah, of course. He is overrated. What I saw from his tape in high school was a player that was very well protected and was hitting open receivers, which it doesn't tell me a lot about the player. I've said this a lot. Like very clean pockets, 5 and 6 seconds to throw. You got receivers open on deep routes. It's the same thing I saw from Sam Heward's tape. Quite frankly, a similar structure. Like I need to see some pressure. I need to see some anticipatory throws. Didn't see any of those things on Quinn Ewers' tape. And Mike Valerie making fun of me saying, all right, Mr. Carson Strong. Carson Strong was a good player, had knee injuries. That's the only reason why he fell to the 7th round. By the way, I think that he signed – you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Carson Strong signed like the largest undrafted free agent deal ever.
Yeah, and then he got cut. He didn't even make the team.
I don't know. I feel like that's a hit. You take a G5 quarterback, and he signed the largest undrafted free agent deal ever. I feel like that's it. Yes, Quinn Ewers is overrated. Kyle McCord. This hurts because he starts our intro, and of course Matthew's not here. Matthew's the one with the relationship with the McCords there. Kyle McCord, is he overrated?
Also, one of the few players that I actively dropped in my rankings this week. Handful of spots, not too much. I already had him pretty close to Devin Brown, but I moved him down essentially right beside him. Like I just am ranking the QBs at Ohio State together for right now.
I moved him down. I know behind Jackson Arnold is one. I can't remember who else, but I moved him down a few spots also. It sounds like you're saying he might be overrated. I don't know that you answered the question. Maybe slightly, ever so slightly overrated. I think that this is like a more important question here. I want to talk about Clemson's wide receiver core. We had high hopes for Adam Randall, athletic freak, 6'3", 220 pounds, over 21 miles per hour. Tore his Achilles, ACL or Achilles? ACL. Came back from it. A size-adjusted freak. Antonio Williams, the slot guy there, I actually think he looked fine against, considering everything. I think he was fine against Duke. And then Bo Collins. I want to talk about them collectively. Adam Randall didn't do much. Bo Collins didn't do much. I don't know if it's the offense or them specifically, because when you listen to like the Cover 3 podcast this offseason, summer school, about what Clemson was concerned about, it was their wide receiver core. Now we look at their wide receiver core and say they should be fine there. But here in this first game, they weren't. So how do you answer that question? Are these three guys overrated? I mean, we have Antonio Williams in our top 8-ish or so collectively as a company. Are those guys overrated?
Yeah, it's really tough. I don't think Antonio Williams is overrated. I don't. I think he's still the only player on this team that can do what he does, and he's the only player right now that fits that this offense wants to do or is capable of doing. I'm a little confused about that entire Clemson game. And full disclosure, I was recording Campus Life at the same time it was on, so I was watching it, but I have to pay attention to call, and he says so. Didn't catch everything. It doesn't look to me like either Garrett Riley is not being allowed to run the offense that he has previously run, or the offensive line is so bad that there's no other offense that can be run here. Either or, which I think, as we've talked about a lot in the past, especially for a guy like Randall, hurts these guys that aren't mega separators. I think the bigger question mark with Randall and with the staff, who I have deep trust issues with, is why he only played 29 snaps in this game, but Cole Turner, who apparently plays the same wide receiver position, played 52. Why Bo Collins played 80. Why, and quite frankly, Antonio Williams didn't play 80. He only played 61, and he got subbed in with another slot guy here. I'm just consistently confused about what this staff is doing, especially with some of these skill guys. So I don't want to say that either overrated. I'm just confused about what exactly is going on there and what the solution is. What is the solution? I don't want to have a is Dabo done discussion, but like, what is the next solution here? If you finally go out and get another supposed high-powered offensive coordinator, you do that, and the situation doesn't improve at all. Whose fault is it at that point?
It didn't improve at all. And if you looked at what Cade Klubnik had, like 3 or 4 turnover-worthy throws in the first 7 minutes or so. And when I say turnover-worthy throws, to me, it was like he wasn't understanding the reads that he was supposed to make. Now, a concept will be called in the huddle. They've practiced this in they would have practiced these plays in practice the entire week. Like there could be a play where, you only read the boundary corner and make a decision based on where he is or where the safety is, or a lot of times on RPOs, if that linebacker comes up, you're throwing the slant behind the linebackers. Those are the type of things that you're looking at. So you're not always looking at all 11 players on the field. What I saw from Cade Klubnik was like he was either not looking in the right place or he was making the wrong decisions despite looking in the right place. Those were the type of thing. I'm like, how can you just like there's somebody standing right there and you just threw it to them? To me, that's someone who's not yet comfortable. You got to learn the terminology of the offense. You got to know where your protection is pre-snap. And then once the ball is snapped, you have to make the right decisions and not predetermine. It can take a lot of practice and reps to become fluid in that, just the language and then the decision-making process. He was not at all comfortable in the decision-making process of the offense on Monday. So for that reason, I have no idea what to make of the wide receiver core because the offense was so completely dysfunctional that it made it hard to tell whether it's the offense or the skill set of those wide receivers. I have no idea. I agree with you. I mean, Antonio Williams was getting the intermediate stuff that you would expect a slot wide receiver to get, and he looked fine. Like in a higher volume offense, he would be a player that had, one of these possession lines where he has 8 receptions for 80-something yards, maybe a touchdown or something like that. I don't know what to make of the other two. I just don't. Those are outside guys. Those are boundary guys. And Cade Klubnik didn't look comfortable throwing the ball out there. Let's see if they get it corrected. I want to move on here to some new players, Austin, that we have added to our rankings. Some really exciting performances. I'll start here with Deion Burks out of Belleville, Michigan, by the way. Belleville, Michigan at Purdue. He's a third-year player there. I had never heard of Deion Burks. And I see him in this game against Fresno State, and he's bouncing off of corners and he is streaking down after bouncing off of corners, streaking down the field for touchdowns. This guy, to me, looked sudden, explosive. He reminded me of DJ Moore at Maryland, how physical he was after the catch. I don't know where I asked Alan True, I said, where did this dude come from? And he said, I liked him coming out of high school, but he's a 3-star. This is not a guy with a high pedigree, but we've seen Purdue kind of have these types of players who kind of have a spark in production. David Bell was there. Charlie Jones was there last year. I don't know, Austin. They keep calling him a freak. Maybe Deion Burks is the next guy at Purdue. How do you feel about him?
Could be, and even if I don't think he's a huge NFL guy, I think Graham Harrell offense with an experienced quarterback, as we saw this week, can do some pretty good damage. I think they can consistently score, 28, 35, 42 points. And if he's the lead guy, I mean, I know Harrell failed at West Virginia, and so we have a bit of a bad taste in our mouth with him. But at USC, how many guys did he have? Like, it's USC. It's a little different than Purdue, but I mean, Pittman, London, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyler Vaughns. I mean, he had a bunch of guys putting up 1,000 or close to 1,000 yard season. So wouldn't shock me at all if Deion Burks can do that and can be that guy there for them this year. I thought it would be TJ Sheffield, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I picked up Deion Burks in 2 separate leagues, and in both of those leagues, he was my priority ad. I wish I would have saw this production maybe his freshman year, maybe last year, but the skill set that I saw, plucking the ball out of the air, having the contact balance after the catch. You don't really describe wide receivers as having contact balance all the time, unless you're talking about somebody like DJ Moore or Deebo Samuel. And so those things made me hesitant, like the fact that we hadn't seen this earlier. But I mean, I saw enough reps. I wanted to spend my claim on somebody. I will take a chance on this guy. I took him as a priority ad in 2 leagues, including 1 league where you only get 1 claim each year, and I took Deion Burks. Another guy that
where'd you put him in? Where'd you put him in your rankings? Did you say
I
that?
don't remember, like top 50 or something like that. It's 50, 60, somewhere around there.
That's rich. Interesting.
Okay. I mean, I have to go look. I don't know that's. I mean, we'll see. I mean, he can move, but he's debuted somewhere around there. It might be 60. I can't remember exactly. I'll wait and see. I'll see exactly here when I get a second to look. Another player from this game that I added to my rankings is Elijah Gilliam. I don't know how to say his last name. Gilliam. This is a guy that went to Bishop Gorman in Nevada. He is also a third-year player. We thought that it would be is it Malik Sherrod, who is there at Fresno State, who we expected to take over the running back snaps. It was Elijah Gilliam, and I posted something on Twitter today. Apparently, he doesn't even have a scholarship. He is a walk-on. This guy is 5'11", 216 pounds, and he looks 216 pounds. He has some explosiveness. He can catch the ball. He had 92 yards here against Purdue. I'm thinking when I get to Mountain West action, this is the physical profile of a player who's going to run through defenses in the Mountain West, especially as explosive as Fresno State's offense is. And their running back position has been historically from Ronnie Rivers to for the Jordan Mims last year. Now I think it's going to be Elijah Gilliam, given that he had 20 carries and the next closest running back had like 5 or 6 or something like that. He was the primary running back when they were running the ball. He has NFL size. I don't know that he's the NFL athlete. He's definitely a good enough athlete to dominate Mountain West competition. Did you get to see Elijah Gilliam at all, and were you impressed by his play?
Yeah, I watched the whole game. I don't want to say that I wasn't impressed or anything. I thought he had a good game. He's the guy this year that he's not a priority for me at all. And I am like slightly worried that ends up coming back to bite me in coming weeks, that he does end up taking that job. But it does sound like Sherrod rolled an ankle early in the game, which opened up a lot of opportunity for him. So I am just slightly worried that it's basically a 1 or 2 week fling here with him. And then when Sherrod's back, at worst, it's a split, and it might go back to Sherrod.
Sherrod is a smaller player. Like this dude is.
He's a different player. And the thing is, you can't even like typecast what back you think they're going to play based on.
It's been different
because
guys.
they've used a wide range.
Guys.
Yeah,
I mean, Jordan Mims is a little bit taller. Ronnie Rivers is a little bit smaller to the ground. So you're right. I mean, they have it, but I was surprised. I was surprised to learn that this guy's a walk-on, but he was a 3-star. I think he was a 3-star. And coming out of Bishop Gorman, a high school powerhouse, I don't know what his productivity was there, but he has played high-level football because it doesn't get higher in the high school level as far as going to Bishop Gorman. Oh, by the way, that's the same school that Zachariah Branch went to. Zachariah Branch, who everybody's raving about there at USC. Elijah Gilliam came from the same place. Ashton Daniels at Stanford was a surprise start. I watched this game against Hawaii. I didn't know what to make of it. I saw enough of quarterback Ashton Daniels, and I know that Stanford's head coach is the guy who just came from Sacramento State. They've had excellent offensive production, and so that led me to want to put him on my radar. I didn't rank Ashton Daniels highly at all. I didn't put in any claims for him, but I did rank him. I think you probably had the same or similar approach.
Yeah, I am intrigued. And talk about guys from powerhouses. He played at Buford in Georgia. was a starter at Buford. I don't know. And it's a second-year player. So, we were in existence when he came out of high school. He wasn't highly ranked at all, but I don't remember us ever having a discussion on him at all. So, I don't know. I liked him. I picked him up a couple places that were like unlimited waiver type situations.
Yeah, that's probably the only place where I would pick him up. Buford, by the way, has the number 1 quarterback in next year's class, Dylan Royola. I think they have like 2 or 3 5-stars on that team. Justice Haynes, friends of the show, Justice Haynes. He went to Buford. That's another high school powerhouse. So, who are some guys that you added to your rankings here this week, Austin?
Yeah, I added quite a few. I'll add a decent amount early in the season here, and then if it's a 1-week flash, I'll delete them out, or if they perform well, I'll keep inching them up. I added Pefeli Ashlock this week, the Hawaii wide receiver, 2 excellent weeks back to back. I think there's a likelihood that he's a top 10 fantasy wide receiver this year. I bumped him to 81. We get another week or 2 like this out of him, and I'll probably bump him up with my other top CFF guys who are in like the low 40s, high 50s. So, or high 40s, low 50s, I guess. So, the Jamari Thrashes, the Joshua Cephas's, those kinds of guys. Noah Thomas, I think, is an interesting one. He's actually the only player this week that I added to both my Devy and my C2C set of rankings. Didn't blow me away as like a route runner for Texas A&M. But
no, a bigger wide receiver. He's got to be
like
6'6".
No, I think he's listed at 6'4", and that's probably as tall as he is. He reminds me of like Mingo, Jonathan Mingo, or like that kind of receiver, like kind of built like that. Not an amazing route runner, but a good mover. Had 3 touchdowns. I mean, hard to ignore that. I put him 61st for Devy, 88th for C2C. I did put Burks in my rankings at 128. I put Lincoln Victor, the Washington State wide receiver, in at 119. Alongside Eric Brooks, who was actually Fresno's leading wide receiver this weekend. I was pretty impressed with him.
And on Eric Brooks is playing the same position that
Cropper.
No, not Cropper. The smaller guy from Cal who transferred over there. Nico.
Regimio or
Nico Remigio. Nico Remigio. He's playing that slot position, which was very productive last year.
See, I thought he was using more of a Cropper because they sent him deep a few times too, and he was pretty dangerous there. I thought he was really, really interesting. I actually would prefer, if I had to pick up one of him or Burks, I think I slightly prefer Brooks at this point. Obviously, ranked him about 10 spots higher. 2 tight ends. I added TCU tight end Jerry Wiley to my rankings. He could end up being a pretty big factor in their offense this year. Probably not an NFL guy. Doesn't look like he's huge, but interesting.
And I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but JoJo Earl. Biggest wolf.
Oh, I dropped him like 50
biggest
spots,
wolf.
60 spots.
I mean, JoJo Earl debuted in my rankings before he was a freshman at like 12 or something like that. I cannot be more disappointed with JoJo Earl, the TCU transfer there.
Agreed. Amari Niblack, fine. I'll add him to my rankings. He had a pretty decent week from a productivity standpoint. I'm still very skeptical on the size, but we'll add him in there. I put him in tight end 42. And then TJ Finley is the other one. Who surprised a little bit. I mean, we knew it was a possibility, but started for Texas State, a system that we like, a coach that we like, weak conference. They played the toughest game on their schedule already, and they won it against Baylor this weekend, and Finley looked pretty effective in that game. So I think whatever you thought of Malik Hornsby from a rankings perspective, there's no reason not to think similarly and or better of TJ Finley, because we know that Finley has the job, whereas that was always in the back of our minds that Hornsby would not get it. So now we know Finley has a job. I put him at QB 76, along with guys like Byron Brown at USF, who also surprised a little bit getting the job this week. I have some other kind of, quote unquote CFF only guys in that range. But if he has a couple more good weeks, he could bump up to maybe the 50s as a guy that I think is interesting in that offense moving forward.
The thing that I love about college football, really, it's discovery. It is the new names, all of the guys that we have just listed: Poafili Ashlock, Deion Burks, Elijah Gillen, who doesn't even have a scholarship. I mean, it's those to a certain. I always say I shoot from deep. To a certain extent, we're all shooting from deep because we're all trying to find those diamonds in the rough, and we're all watching these games trying to find guys on the fringes who have a chance to either be productive as college players or potential NFL players. And I'm actually quite proud of our track record there. I mean, we saw I mean, I know that these aren't deep hits, but we said that the freshman quarterbacks would be good this year. Between Jackson Arnold, Nico Iamaleava, and Dante Moore, they looked fantastic in their first action. Dante Moore should be starting this week. As I said, he should have been starting to start the game. Dante Moore is just an excellent football player. But that is the fun part of the game, discovery. Even for a highly touted player like Dante Moore or, Justice Haynes or Zachariah Branch, yes, we have these expectations for them, but we had expectations for Adam Randall and JoJo Earl and Guy Hall and, all of these guys. So when they come out of the box and we see them really even succeeding or failing, it's all gives me a huge, huge dopamine hit when we get to see these stories play out one chapter at a time from week to week. So, all right, I think that's it. I think that's all we got for today. It's going to be a live Saturday this week. Of course, the NFL starts tomorrow. Louisville plays tomorrow. They should be able to run over. I think they play Murray State. They play Murray State. It's an in-state game. They'll be able to run over them. So that'll be going on during the Chiefs and Lions. And then this Saturday, Colorado's on the schedule, playing Nebraska at home, and of course Alabama and Texas. It's going to be a good Saturday. Join us for the tailgate at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And of course, again, 5-star rate and review. I'll pick one person, a month free, everything we have available at campusdecan.com. That's going to be our show for tonight. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. For Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharpe. Good night and good luck.